Now we are at the last stage for measuring the data characteristics. We already discussed about central tendency. We already discussed about the variability in the form of dispersion. And in this session, we are going to discuss about asymmetry. But along with that, one portion which is left in our previous discussion was coefficient of variation. That is an extension of, you can say, dispersion. That is the variability in the data. So how the coefficient of variation going to help us or going to convey us about the data, especially in the comparison of the data, and then we will come to the measure of asymmetry. So what is the coefficient of variation? Now we already know that absolute measure of variations are standard deviation, and we also know that standard deviation is not useful for computing the variability of two frequency distribution if they are measured in different units or with widely different means. If their means are very different, then it is difficult, and their units are different, again it is difficult. So in that case, we cannot use the absolute measure, we have to use the relative measures. So relative measure for variation is coefficient of variation. So for comparing different groups of for different groups of data, so we can compute the coefficient variation for population is given by sigma by mu multiplied by 100%, and coefficient of variation for sample, that is standard deviation divided by sample mean multiplied by 100%. So that's how the coefficient variation we use to calculate. And let's see that we take example also, that is standard deviation versus coefficient of variation, and here this example will able to clarify us what is the difference between the two and why we should vote for coefficient of variation for whenever we want to compare two set of data. So price of movie tickets in different cinema halls of two different countries are given. Cinema hall 1 to 10, the ticket rates are given in rupees for the Indian, that is 100 rupees, 200 rupees, 300 rupees, 500 and up to 1100 rupees. So that is that rates in the rupees for Indian. And similarly for 10 cinema halls in the United States, that is in the dollar. So it is $2.1, $4, $6.3, $7.8, $10, $11.9, $14, $15.8, $18.2 and $19.9. Now just see the ticket rates. One is measured in rupees, second is measured in dollar. So one thing is either we should convert Indian rupees into dollar or American dollar into Indian rupees, so that we can have the same units and then we can play with that. Or if it is not possible, that we are not interested in doing that, so let's see that how the coefficient of variation will able to tell us what the Indian data is saying and what the United States data is saying. So first of all we calculate the mean. Mean for Indian country, for India, in rupees 550 rupees and US dollar 11 rupees. So you can take that, okay, we will just talk dollar into rupees. So it will comes out to be about 700 rupees. So mean 550 rupees or 700 rupees. So there is a difference. So 550 and 11. If you talk irrespective of unit, so it is a very big difference. Then variance for India, that is 96,500, and for US it is 32.544. So again there is a very big difference. Then the standard deviation 310.644 for India, and for US it is 5.704. Again there is a big difference. So if we are comparing the two countries and that which are giving the data in two different units, and so in that case mean variance standard deviations will not convey us the correct picture, or that is we will not be in position to compare these two different data set. So in this case, coefficient of variation, if we calculate it, formula we just discussed, the coefficient of variation for India works out to be 0.564 and for United States is 0.518. So we can simply say that now both are almost matching, and we can also say that variation is less, but variation less in United States and variation more in India. But the figures are now comparable, 0.564 and 0.518. So you can say that now both the countries are at par as far as the comparison is concerned. So whenever, so we can use the population data, we are talking the population, and if one dealing with the sample data, then we have to use the sample formula. As simple as it is. Now there is another term which is known as movements. We have done median, we have done standard deviation, we have done variance. So the another characteristics which we can say that we use to study the behavior of data set after tendency, central tendency and dispersion is the movements. So movement is another measure which helps us in getting information from the distribution. So the term movement is used due to reason of spread, that is movement or surrounding of the data about some point of reference. What is the point of reference? That is a different issue. So about how much the concentration, how the data is spread over the central value or some point. So movements are of two different types. One is mu r, that is rth movement. Mu r means mu r. R means rth movement about mean, and mu r dash, it is rth movement about any arbitrary value a. So mu r dash means telling us about the spread around the value a, and mu r is telling us the spread around the value mean, arithmetic mean. So mu r is equal to 1 by n, summation is going from 1 to n fi xi minus x bar raised to power r is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and go on. So xi is our end observation or midpoint of the class intervals, and xi is arithmetic means, and fi is the corresponding frequencies which are associated with the midpoints xi, and capital N is the sum of frequency. So the formula, we simplify this formula. So for r is equal to 0, mu 0 is equal to, works out to be equal to 1. That is 1 by capital N, summation I is going from 1 to n, fi xi minus x bar is power 0. So xi minus x bar raised power 0 means this is 1. So 1 by n, summation I is going 1 to n. So this value is 1. So 1 is removed. So 1 by n, summation I is going to 1 to n fi is nothing but n. So it is 1. Now for r is equal to 1, mu 1, r is equal to 1. And we know that sum of deviation about mean is always be 0. It is always be 0, sum of xi minus x bar, we take that. So it is nothing but a 0. So we'll mu 1 is 0. Now for r is equal to 2 is mu 2. So fi xi minus x bar square, and this is nothing but known as variance, sigma square. So it is also remain unaffected by the change of scale and origin, and while we have seen in the various calculation also, it is not affected by the changing the scale and origin, and by changing the scale and origin it simplifies our calculation. That is the most important part. So mu r is hr, h raised power r 1 by n, summation I is going from 1 to n, fi di minus d bar raised to power r, where di is xi minus a by h and d bar is mean of di, and where what is a is any arbitrary value and h is the magnitude of class interval. So by changing the scale and origin, our formula is very simple now, and we can use it for large data also, heavy data also. Now after that changing scale and origin, it is given by, so similarly we can also find out for there is a mu r dash hr is equal to 1 by 1 by n, and phi di raised power r. So di is equal to xi minus a by hi. So we can also use for mu r dash, that is by changing the scale and origin. So otherwise, so for r is equal to 0, mu 0 dash is 1 by n, summation I is going 1 to n, fi xi minus a raised power 0, this is nothing but 1. For r is equal to 0, mu 0 is equal to mu 0 dash, and for r is equal to 1, mu 1 dash is equal to, here it is a. So here a is unaffected. So sum of fi is equal to 1 by n, so it is nothing but x bar. What is this? Just expand it. Sum of I is going 1 to n, fi xi divide by n minus sum of I is going for 1 to n multiply by fi ai divide by n. So what is that? A is a constant, so a will come out. So I is going for 1 to n, 1 by n will cancel each other, it will leave a, and sum of I is going for 1 to n fi xi by capital N is nothing but x bar. For r is equal to 1 is nothing but x bar minus a, arithmetic mean minus a, and for r is equal to 2 is nothing but our mean deviation, and so that we are able to get it. So on the basis of movements, one can also calculate the Carl-Pearson coefficient, which are given beta 1, beta 2 and nu 1 and nu 2. And this we can also use for the studying the frequency distribution. These are beta 1 is equal to mu 3 raised power square and mu 2 raised power cube, and beta 2 is mu 4 divided by mu 2 square, and nu 1 is square root of beta 1 and nu 2 is beta 2 minus 3. So these characteristics are totally independent of units of measurement, that is important. So it is independent of unit of measurements. So it is mainly used for studying skewness and kurtosis. What is that skewness and kurtosis? We are going to discuss. That is nothing but where is the data is moving, in which direction data is moved. Then what is the relation between mu r and mu r dash? So mu 0 is 1, we know, and mu 1 is equal to 0, and mean is x bar is equal to a plus mu 1 dash. So variance, that is mu 2 is defined by mu 2 dash minus mu 2 dash square, and mu 3 is mu 3 dash minus 3 times mu 2 dash mu 1 dash plus 2 mu 1 dash cube. Similarly mu 4 formula. The rest of the movements are not of much importance, it will not able to convey us much more values. And similarly mu 2 dash in the form of mu, so mu 2 plus mu 1 dash square, similarly mu 3 and mu 4. So that's what, if you are able to have the one value, we can compute, if you have the mu values we can compute mu dash values, and you have the mu dash we can compute mu values. Now comes the Shepard correction. Now the Shepard correction, when we are doing a calculation, and especially when which are related with the continuous frequency distribution, normally our assumption is that within a class interval data is concentrated around the midpoint of the class interval, that is xi, which is we are midpoint xi which we are computing it. It is the data which we are, how we are finding out, upper limit minus lower limit divided by 2, that is a midpoint, so that is xi. So we are assuming that the whole data which is within that class interval is around xi, but this may not be true in a real time. So due to this an error occurs, and this error known as grouping error, because the class interval which you make it, and due to that this error is occurring. So this error we can correct it under the condition number 1, if it is a continuous frequency distribution, we can do that, and the frequency taper off to 0 in both directions. Then we can apply the Shepard correction. And what is that Shepard correction? And mu 2 That is mu2, corrected value of mu2 is mu2 minus h square by 12. Mu3 does not require correction, and mu4 corrected is equal to mu4 minus 1 by 2 h square mu2 times plus 7 h raised power 4 by 240, and where we know what is h is the magnitude of the class interval. So the correction required in mu2 and mu4. Now last time, if you remember, we discussed about the outliers. We also discussed that how the outlier is playing a game, and there is a 5-number summary. What do you mean by a 5-number summary of a distribution? It consists of smallest observation, first quartile, median, that is second quartile, third quartile Q3, and the largest value. And this we are also written in the order from smallest to largest. So smallest is minimum value, then Q1, then Q2, then Q3, and then the maximum value. So this is the way when we are presenting the data. So in 5-number summary, if we draw a box plot for this 5-number summary, the central box is nothing but a type of a quartile. So for the outlier, for finding out the outlier, we will see that how this box plot help us in calculating, in finding out or identifying the outlier. So we draw a box plot for the distribution which is given to us as per the 5-number summary, and the central box spans the quartile where we are making the box, and line within the box that gives us the median, and line extended above and below are called whisker, and they are at the distance of 1.5 into interquartile range, and any sample which you can where the sample which you have drawn it, that we are put it on this box plot. Let's see how it is being plotted and how it is being drawn, and if they are outside the range, so they will be plotted outside the range. Just see. Now data, now we put in the line. So we are making a box. So box is 5-number theory is what? Minimum value, Q1, median, Q3, and maximum value. So maximum value should be Q3 plus 1.5 times IQR, and minimum value should be Q1 minus 1.5 IQR in the ideal condition. So interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1. So we can say now but the other data which we are exiting it, which we are having in the data, we have to plot it. So one data we are coming in the left side of this, and two data are more than this. So we are computing on the basis of quartiles. On the basis of interquartile range, we are plotting the box plot, and this value which we are plotting outside this are known as outlier. Or you can say, sir, this is a minimum, then it should be a minimum, then this should be the maximum. Why it is not? That we are calculating on the basis of quartile. The ideal condition, use it, use the name ideal condition. That is Q1 minus 1.5 IQR should give the minimum value. Q3 plus 1.5 IQR is give the maximum value. So any value which is away than this maximum value and below than this minimum value is known as outlier. So value less than Q minus 1.5 IQR and Q greater than Q plus 1.5 IQR is considered as outlier. So that's how we have to identify outlier. Otherwise, if this box plot we are not drawing it, we are not having this 5-number theory, then what will happen? Our whole data will be disturbed. Our where will be Q1 will be disturbed, because this layer where this value data is and where this maximum data is going on depending upon that. So that's how we are using that 5-number theory, and with the help of box plot we can easily identify outliers. And we also see that we have drawn the graphs. If you remember that graph, if we have drawn it, and then we are able to again find out the outliers from that graph also, where there are some data, that is a marks in theory class and marks in studio. So if the marks which is above or which is away from the concentrated value, we declare it as an outlier. But that is a graphical one, but this is a mathematical one through which we can declare which data is outlier. Similarly, this type of the data, that is again our box plot. This is our non-outlier range, that is a median minus plus 1.5 times and median minus 1.5 times interquartile range. So we are getting the minimum value, maximum value, and these we say if it is a 3 times, what is that? That is median, and here up to now what we are doing it, this is 1.5 times Q3 plus 1.5 times Q1 minus 1.5 times, and here if it is Q3 plus 3 times IQR, those value, and Q1 minus 3 times IQR, we draw this line. So the value which are falling in this range, we can declare them outlier. So these are the outlier, but the value which lies above than this and lower than this, these are known as extreme values. So mind it, that is median, any value which is lower than median minus 3 times IQR, and any value which is more than median plus 3 times IQR. Here it is Q3 plus 1.5 times IQR, that is Q1 minus 1.5 IQR, and here it is Q3 minus 3 times IQR, and here is Q3 plus 3 times IQR. So Q1 is being used here, and Q3 we are using it here. So we are computing this, and Q1 minus 3 times IQR, and for computing this Q3 plus 3 times IQR. So now I have repeated at least 2-3 times. So now these are the values are known as extreme values, and these are known as outliers. So if the box is closer to the bottom whisker, these are the whiskers. Now if this box is lower like this, we can say lower type, then we can say data is positively skewed. If the box is closer to the top whisker, then it is known as negatively skewed. That is, if it is in the above dense region, this box is moving in this direction, because we don't know how the data is. Here it looks that all are equal distance, but in real life it may not be. In real life this may be a very short, because it depends upon the data, what type of data we are having it, how much the concentration of the data. So we can say the skewness, positive skewness and negative skewness, we can also see by this showing the box. So it can also describe the distribution. One can comment on the shape also, the shape as well as the presence of outlier. The center of the distribution is clearly identified and given the value of median. So finally the spread of distribution can be seen. So box plot can also show the normality of the distribution. So how much is spread this side, how much spread this side, and where is the concentration, that gives us, you can say, what type of data is, how the values are scattered. So what type of distribution it is. So this box plot, we can also use it for the purpose of comparing the distribution, comparing the data. That is the purpose of that. So this box plot helps us in finding out outliers as well as one can say extreme values, as well as have an idea of skewness, and as well as the type of distribution. So by this we are able to conclude our method related to central tendency as well as variability. Now we will go for the shape of the data, that is asymmetry. So then shape of the data we can compare it in two types, that is either by skewness or by kurtosis. What is the skewness? So skewness measure the asymmetry in the data. Data is symmetrical or non-symmetrical, that tell us. So the value of coefficient skewness can be both positive as well as negative. Actually, by using dot plot or histogram, we can also see, visually we can understand the skewness, and we can also see the what is the distribution of the data very easily from the histogram or dot plots. So a distribution in which the values are equidistant from the center and have equal frequency is defined to be symmetrical, and departure from symmetry is known as asymmetrical data or skewness. Let's see the example. So one example is, if we along the frequency curve, along its ordinates, which is equal to mean, if we fold the frequency curve along the ordinate line of the mean, then the both sides of the curves will meet each other, will coincide with each other. That is, the shape of the curve on both the sides are same. So we can say it is a symmetrical frequency distribution, and that type of curve is also known as bell-shaped curve. So if we just fold this data, fold this one, so this and this will meet either, and this value will meet this value, and this is our mean value, and we just fold it. So you can say it is also a bell-shaped curve, and that is known as normal curve or no skewness. And the data where mean, median and mode, where data is more scattered in the left side, is known as negatively skewed, and if the data is skewed positively in the right side, then it is known as positively skewed data. We will see more examples also. In the symmetrical distribution, the length of right tail is equal to length of left tail. That is, mean, median, mode is same, and coefficient of skewness is 0. SK is 0. And negatively skewed curve, mean is less than median and median is less than mode, and skewness is less than 0. So we can say that observation are concentrated more at the upper end of the possible values of the variable. So here the values are concentrated and values are you can say negatively skewed. So length of right tail is less than length of left tail. So this is the length of left tail and this is the length of right tail. So this is negatively skewed data. And similarly, and positively skewed data, in a positively skewed data, the observation tend to concentrate more at the lower end of the possible values of the variable than the upper end. So here the length of right tail is greater than length of left tail, and mean is bigger than median, and median is bigger than mode. That is, SK is positive. So it is positively skewed data, that we can say very easily. So asymmetrical distribution, we can say mean is not equal to median, median is not equal to mode, or Q3 minus median is not equal to median minus Q1. We know Q1 is and Q3 are first quartile and third quartiles. And the absolute measure of skewness, there are three formulas are there for finding out the absolute measure of skewness. SK is equal to mean minus median, the other is mean minus mode, and third one is Q3 plus Q1 minus 2 times median. We know that Q1, Q3 are the quartiles. So by this we can find out the absolute measure of skewness. But the most important is relative measure of skewness. There are different formulas are there, and but sometimes the biggest problem in the skewness is some formula give contradicting results. So first one is Karl Pearson coefficient of skewness. So Karl Pearson has given the formula mean minus mode divided by sigma, that is standard deviation. So and SKP is denoting the Karl Pearson coefficient of skewness. Now if mode is not determinant, we don't know the mode is not there, then the coefficient of skewness, the Karl Pearson coefficient of skewness is given by mean minus 3 times median minus 2 times means divided by sigma. That is mean minus 3 times median minus 2 mean is sigma, or we can say it is 3 times mean minus median. Very easily we can compute, divided by sigma. So similarly, it is very simple. The value of coefficient skewness is 0, then the distribution is symmetrical. Now Professor Bowley's coefficient of skewness, and this is given by Q3 plus Q1 minus 2 times medians divided by Q3 minus Q1. So if the value is greater than 0, so it is positively skewed. If the value less than 0, it is negatively skewed. And it is 0, then it is symmetrical distribution. Now Cayley's coefficient of skewness, it is on the basis of percentile and deciles. So in the percentile formula, Sk is equal to P90 plus P10 minus 2 times P50 divided by P90 minus P10. And the form of decile, D9 minus D1 minus 2 times D5 and divided by D9 minus D1. So in the form of percentile and decile also we can calculate the Cayley's coefficient of skewness. We can also use the movement for calculating the coefficient of skewness. So on the basis of movement, it is given by Sk is equal to under root B1 multiplied by B2 plus 3 divided by 2 times 5 times B2 minus 6 times B1 minus 9. So if Sk is equal to 0, so it means B1 is equal to 0 or B2 is equal to minus 3. That is for symmetrical distribution. But B2 is mu4 divided by mu2 square, so it cannot be positive. So Sk is skewness, coefficient skewness will be 0 if and only if beta 1 is 0. So beta 1 cannot substitute above formula, but beta 1 which is equal to mu3 square divided by mu2 cube, which will always be positive because due to mu3 square will always be positive and mu2 is always be positive. We know it is a variance. So hence beta 1 cannot comment on the negative skewness. So this is a lacuna when we are talking about the beta 1. Now Karl Pearson coefficient, we are using it. Now we know that mu1 is equal to under root of beta 1, that is mu3 divided by sigma cube. So it can give us a skewness, it may be negative, positive or 0. So it is also equivalent to use mu3 in place of mu1. So if mu3 is positive, then mu1 is positive. So curve is positively skewed. If mu3 is negative, then mu1 is negative. So curve is negatively skewed. So many professor has given the different formulas. But sometime it happens that these formulas are contradicting each other and they are not able to tell us about the skewness is a positive or negative. So otherwise the simple thing is Sk is equal to 0, curve is symmetrical. If Sk is positive, it is positively skewed. If Sk is negative, then it is negatively skewed. So range of skewness is from -3 to +3. Why? Think yourself, why the range of Sk is -3 to +3. Next one is kurtosis. This is now the last measure which we are going to discuss. We have seen that central tendency, measure of dispersion and skewness is same. The example are here. Skewness same, central tendency is same, dispersion is same. So what is the kurtosis? So kurtosis is referring to the peak. This is one peak, second peak and third peak. So this is the difference between the curve. So when the value of variable are highly concentrated around the mode, mode means that is the highest value which is appearing it. So the peak of the curve becomes negatively high or value has a higher peak. So it is a normal distribution with same mean and standard deviation, and curve is known as leptokurtic. This is leptokurtic. So that type of normal distribution, its peak is more. Now if the value of variable have low concentration around the mode, that is the peak of the curve becomes relatively flat or value has a lower peak than the normal distribution. This is a normal distribution. So then it is known as platykurtic. Platykurtic, and this is leptokurtic. And the normal distribution, the normal curve is known as mesokurtic. So when the peak is more than normal distribution, mean and standard deviation are same. So leptokurtic, and mean is mesokurtic, and if it is a flatter one, then it is platykurtic. This will clear you. Leptokurtic, normal and platykurtic, like this. So here you can see how the values are moving around that. Now this is the Karl Pearson coefficient of kurtosis. If coefficient of kurtosis is greater than 3, then it is known as leptokurtic. If coefficient of kurtosis is 3, then it is known as mesokurtic, that is a normal distribution curve. And if coefficient of kurtosis is less than 3, then is known as platykurtic curve. And coefficient of kurtosis is given by beta 2, that is mu 4 divided by mu 2 square for population data, and for sample data beta 2 b2, that is m4 divided by m2 square. So that is the movement which we have calculated for sample data, as simple as it is. So the population, the formula other scientist has given xi minus mu raised to power of 4, so I is going 1 to n, and n times sigma 4, and for sample it is fi minus xi minus x bar divided by raised to power s raised to power of 4. So for population different and sample is a different formula. Similarly, one can also use nu2. So nu2 is what? Beta 2 minus 3, that is mu 4 divided by sigma 4 is equal to minus 3. So for platykurtic curve, beta 2 is less than 3, that is nu2 is less than 0. For mesokurtic curve, beta 2 is equal to 3, that is nu2 is equal to 0. And leptokurtic curve, beta 2 is greater than 3, that is nu2 is greater than 0. Now that's how we can calculate the kurtosis. So another measure of kurtosis is also known as percentile coefficient of kurtosis. So we know that what is the kurtosis? QD divided by P90 minus P10. What is QD? QD is nothing but semi-interquartile range. It is equal to Q3 minus Q1 divided by 2. We already done it. And P90 is 90th percentile, and P10 is 10th percentile. So by using this formula, again we can find out the kurtosis. And actually this we can see only also by the graph. But how much the difference is, for there we have to find out the numerical value also. So what are the measure what are the measures we can use it for the different type of variables. And last time we also discussed for nominal data, the best measure of central tendency is mode. For ordinal data, the best measure of central tendency is median. For continuous data, which is not skewed one, the best measure of central tendency is mean. And for continuous data, which is skewed one, for that the central tendency, the best central tendency is median. So which type of central tendency is being used for which purposes, we can use it by this formula. Similarly, what are the different level of measurements and what type of descriptive analysis we can use that. We also done it in the previous discussion, but once again we repeat it. So for the nominal data, we can have frequency table, we can have count, we can have percentages, we can have valid percentages, we can have cumulative percentages, and we can central tendency, which we want to measure it, we can measure the mode, but dispersion we cannot measure it. For ordinal data, that is which is the data which we can arrange in certain order. So we can have the frequency table, we can have the count, we can have the percentages, we can have the valid percentages, we can have the cumulative percentages. As far as central tendency is concerned, we can compute mode and median both. But as far as dispersion is concerned, we cannot measure it. For interval and ratio type of data, so from this frequency table, we can do counting, we can have percentage, we can have valid percentage, we can have a cumulative percentage, and from the central tendency, we can compute mode, median and mean, all the three one. And the measure of dispersion, the range, standard deviation and variance, we can compute very easily. So these are the for the different type of data for we can do what type of analysis are permissible is the purpose of showing us in this table. So what type of data is and what is the scope and how much comparison you can do it by using these guidelines. So by this we are able to conclude very important discussion, what you can say, that is the descriptive measure of the data, how to measure the data in the single value, how the two data sets are comparable on certain basis, on the basis of single value. And yes, through graph of a diagram you can compare it, but in the form of numerical way, how much the difference is, that we are able to now do it by this four method measure, that is central tendency, then variability, and then asymmetry. And asymmetry is skewness and kurtosis. So by using these four techniques, we can comment or we can compare or we can draw the conclusion from the data. So by this we are able to conclude our discussion today. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot.